Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Red for Anfield Index. It's match day, ladies and gents, isn't it? Aston Villa under the lights at Anfield, 8 p.m. tonight. A full day to get tanked up, basically. A full day to sort of breathe all the content in. And then at 8 p.m, we get to watch those Reds again. Genuinely can't wait. Genuinely excited for this one. I'm your host, Dave Davies, coming to you from miserable Edinburgh. But we're pretty cheery because what have we actually got to moan about? Let's be completely honest about this. The Reds are top of the Champions League, a perfect record. And look where they are in the league as well. There's so many reasons to be positive. And as ever with Daily Red, we will bring you all the stories, all the latest news, and all the things that are Liverpool related. So let's get into it, ladies and gents. So what are the stories doing the rounds this morning? A couple that I'm seeing here on the contract situations. Now, this one is going to rumble on, the Trent scenario. Even Fabrizio Romano, as he does, tweeting very specifically that Trent is a top target for Real Madrid. What a surprise this summer. What a surprise, hey, breaking news. So we know that. The Daily Mail, though, has that the talks of stall, as I'm seeing here, mainly along the lines that Trent is asking to be paid higher than Van Dijk and higher than Mo Salah. I mean, it is what it is a little bit with Trent's contract. All the chips are on his side of the table. Whatever stories we see, we know exactly where the chips are. And from a sort of the deal makers, from the accountant's perspective, you can't let a £150 million player walk out the club for free. You just cannot let that happen. Never mind he's the best right back in the world. Never mind he's probably the best passer in the world. Never mind he's just an absolutely incredible, elite, generational talent. All that comes into the mix. Yeah. Let's hope we hear something. And not just Trent, but the other two as well. Van Dijk, Salah, everyone's waiting for news. I tell you what, how good would it be to get one of these over the line in the international break? That would just that little boost, just that little fillip would be absolutely superb. No two ways about it, would it, ladies and gents? So we pray, we've got our fingers crossed. Let's hope we hear some news on that. And then the other one that's in the Daily Mirror this morning, mentioning that Luis Diaz, he will have 2 years left and Liverpool don't want to fall into this trap. It's an interesting one with the forwards because there's so many question marks. We've got 6. Chiesa will come on to, there's question marks about him. Salah, the situation we know. Nunes conundrum, that's been going on for a while. But then you look at Diaz and Jota specifically. Both will be 28 in the summer. Both will have 2 years left to go on their deal specifically. That is, as we know, usually the territory, especially for Michael Edwards historically, when we've been well run, sell or renew. And both will be 28. And it is weird at the moment, isn't it? There'll be a lot of opinions. I think for me, I mean, you look how well Luis Diaz is doing this season. A hat-trick the other day, 9 goals, 2 assists. He's on to actually post Mane numbers, isn't he, this season? There's no two ways about it. Touch wood, fingers crossed he stays fit. Fit is not something usually talking about, unfortunately, with Diogo Jota. And I love the flawed genius of Diogo Jota. I love the kind of the ricochets, how ugly it can be at times from him before he just sticks it in the net or makes a big goal contribution. But there are those question marks. And whether you call it unlucky, I mean, Slot confirmed yesterday, didn't he, that Jota will be 1 to 2 weeks after the international break. So that is really another question mark there as well. But Luis Diaz's contract, I think I would be all for renewing that in the summer. But we will see what that will bring, ladies and gents. I mentioned Chiesa as well, didn't I, there? Wasn't talked about in the press conference yesterday. That's important to say. This is a little bit in the embargo, just in case anyone missed the half-10s that came out last night. And Elliott was not mentioned at all, so we're hoping maybe he's back as well after the international break. But Jota 1 to 2 weeks afterwards, so it does have all the hallmarks of a fractured rib. But in the embargo, Slot was speaking specifically about Federico Chiesa. So what did he say? He said, I would not use the word concern, but it's far from ideal for him and for us. Because with the injury of Diogo, we have 4 attackers available at the moment. So this could have been a great moment for him to get more playing time. Completely agree with that. It's difficult for a player who missed out on pre-season and playing pre-season games and training sessions. You have to give a player more time to get used to the intensity levels. It is a difficult balance to get him to where we want him to be, but we are trying, and he is trying everything he can to get to those levels. Here's the key paragraph or key line, ladies and gents. Once he is at that physical level, we will benefit from having him. At this moment, we expect him back during the international break, and then he should be with us after the international break normally. So it looks like, or it sounds like, Chiesa is going to be back after the international break, which is great news because all the options we can use, there's games coming thick and fast, that would be absolutely brilliant. The only small, you call it a caveat with this is, let's be completely honest, he's come back, he's kind of hokey-cokey, and as Slot said, out of training, isn't he? He's struggling with the intensity, so he comes back, something happens, he has to sit out, and, you know, it's just been that West Ham Carabao game for him. That is it, literally. So it sounds great, and we could really use him, but there is just a little caveat around Chiesa, and it's great to hear those comments in the embargo from Slot, but we will see what happens there. Now, this one caught my eye, and it's kind of a little Machiavellian twist to this. So just listen and bear with me out on this. And if you are listening, feel free to like and subscribe, ladies and gents, for your comments. If you think I'm talking absolute tosh, chuck your opinions on there. It's absolutely great to hear from you all. But Alexis McAllister, oh, McAllister, we're all humming that recently, aren't we? But he's on 4 yellows. Now, maybe someone can correct me on this, because I had in my head that Canate was in 4 yellows. I know he came on late in the Carabao Cup, didn't he, against Brighton, and he picked up that late yellow card. Maybe someone could correct me on that. I thought that carried over to the Premier League as well. But as quite a few stories have run this morning, McAllister is on 4 yellows. So if he gets booked today, he will miss the next league game. Is that a bad thing? Let's just think about this carefully. There's a lot of games coming after this international break, another freaking international break. But if you look after Aston Villa, there's a gap, the international break. Southampton away is the next league game. Now, if you were to pick a game for McAllister to miss, I think you would pick that. I could be completely wrong, but I don't think it's a bad tactical yellow to get today, shall we say. I really don't. Put it this way. If he doesn't get it in the Southampton game and he gets it later on, there's a chance you start to worry, like, is he going to miss City? That type of thing. So call it wrong, call it whatever you want, to be honest. For me, I don't think it's a bad idea if Alexis McAllister maybe just picks up a late yellow card if he's not got one already today and misses the Southampton game, because that's what you'd pick anyway. And also think about this. We know he's probably just carrying that abductor issue still. Imagine if, unfortunately, we didn't even want him going into international duty, but he comes back and then he has a bit of a rest because he's not playing on that Sunday. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Just me personally, but wouldn't mind seeing McAllister pick up a yellow today. We'll see, eh? Predictions for today, because I keep mentioning it, don't I? There's pundits talking galore. 2 that I really want to call out, Paul Merson and Mark Lawrenson. I mean, Laurie, you can probably guess, has gone with a Liverpool win. Paul Merson, not at all. What is Paul Merson saying? He said, I see Brighton against Liverpool, and Brighton were actually better than Arne Slot's men for the majority of that game. First half, no doubts about it at all, but okay. I just don't think Liverpool are playing well enough to win this game. If they give Villa the kind of chances they gave Brighton, the likes of Duran and Watkins will punish them. Okay. Liverpool were really fortunate to come away with a win in the last game, but I doubt they'll have that kind of luck here. I really think Villa can cause Liverpool problems in this game. There's a couple of elements to this. And I mean, I think Paul Merson's talking absolute wham. I mean, if you look at the last game, Leverkusen, we were utterly dominant, especially that second half, were brilliant. But maybe you might be right. Who knows? But don't think Liverpool are playing well. Did Paul Merson's glanced at the scores and score lines and that little thing they call the league table and that little thing they call the Champions League table? But yeah, it's an opinion. You can call it that. But what is his ultimate prediction? 2-2. That's what Paul Merson's gone. Don't agree with that at all, to be honest. I'll come to my prediction later. But Loro, if you look at him, he has gone for a 2-0 Reds victory. Feel free to comment on your predictions, ladies and gents. What do you think the scoreline will be today? Who will the scorers be at the same time? Now, another article that's it kind of intrigues me. Football finance isn't for everyone, but certain implications are there. There's an article in the Echo today about the Club World Cup and it being a quadrennial. There's a good word for you, Ace. I guess that means once every 4 years. And Liverpool's coefficient and what that can mean. Because with the revamped 32-team tournament for the Club World Cup, the top 12 qualify from Europe, which we've seen Chelsea and City. They're the two ones that are going to be part of that from the Premier League. Now, as it stands, Liverpool's coefficient, their recent results mean they're currently 4th, apparently, in those European rankings. So well inside, and so they should be, well inside the top 12. I'm not a fan of the Club World Cup. I've got no interest. I'm not going to lie for 1 second that I will watch a single second of it. But here's the bit that will probably have FSG and them in the boardroom absolutely wetting their kecks. As the Echo quotes here, the estimations are around £40 million. That's the minimum that sides will earn. Obviously, more will go to the winners if you go to the later rounds. So that is what the article's saying, that actually, as much as we're thinking, not a fan of it, blah, 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 all those types of things, that actually you do wonder if the suits might just be looking at this. It's not an issue for now. It's definitely something in the future, but just one in the Echo if you want to cast your eye over that, ladies and gents. Now, Curtis Jones, sensational recently. And it's important to say, actually, Slot talked about him at length in the press conference. He really did, actually. And he talked about how well he's playing at the moment. And he talked about a few jokes around fatherhood. You may have seen those. But the specific line that a lot of people have sort of run with last night and this morning is almost, they've seen it as a challenge that he said the top players do it every 3 games. You know, it's not good enough to just do it on one-off occasion. A lot of people have taken those comments as a kind of a challenge to Curtis Jones, like, can you do it again now? And I didn't see it that way, but maybe it was because a few people have identified it that way. But for me, I don't see how Curtis Jones can't start. Double negative, I know, but he's been brilliant, hasn't he? So many positive performances recently. The match winner against Chelsea, Salah's assist against Brighton for the winner, the pass for Diaz the other night. Oh, whether it is fatherhood, whether it's the new coach, maybe it's just the perfect trifecta combination of all these things. Curtis Jones is absolutely brilliant at the moment, and he's got to start today. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, just in case you want to read quite a few articles there on Curtis Jones, and shout out to Lewis Steele. He's done one for the Daily Mail, so a bit of an exclusive piece there, an analysis. The one thing I would shout out from that, quite interesting, it is a per 90 stat for any of you nerds, jump on that. But per 90, Curtis Jones is running the furthest at the moment. As the piece says, on average per 90, 11.7k. So he's doing the hard yards. He's doing, he's making magic at times, like that pass the other night for Diaz. It's all about, maybe as Arne Slot said, maybe it was targeted, who knows. Do it keep this consistent level up. That would be absolutely brilliant, wouldn't it? Virgil van Dijk is also talking, ladies and gents. Now, there's an interview, a bit of a strange question, I think, in The Independent about has he got a hangover from the Euros? And it kind of referenced to Ollie Watkins, a bit strange, but maybe it's a tenuous link, but there you go. He said, do the Euros play on my mind? No, I'm not like that. What do you call it? Sentimental. And it kind of goes on about where his thoughts are. It's a good little read about the season. There's a little bit there, but then it does sort of segue into the bits around, to today's game and Ollie Watkins. It's a bit of a strange article. Maybe it's worth a read. Independent, if you want to scoop that. Also, we'll talk about Virgil talking the normal programme note. So I never like to spoil these because some people really like reading the programme like I do when I'm at Anfield. So I don't want to sort of give away too much on this. But what does he talk about? He talks about the atmosphere, which is absolutely brilliant to talk about, isn't it? At the same time, the way it's been, he references Brighton, he references Leverkusen, he gives some praise to Luis Diaz, which is absolutely brilliant, and how he's been consistent. He should already be praised this season, which I really like. But if you do want those, and like I say, I never like to spoil those too much because I used to traditionally love reading that programme. Just that bit where you get to yourself before sort of the eye of the storm and everything happens at Anfield. Arne Slot's programme notes are up on the official website. Virgil van Dijk's programme notes are up on the website as well. So if you like that, like me, well worth a read. And speaking of other things that are up on the website, I don't know if you'll have a Liverpool TV Go, they call it license pass, whatever they're bloody called nowadays, but Mo Salah has done a great interview with them because he was, quite rightly, Liverpool's Player of the Month for October. The Standard Chartered Player, they call it, don't they? So, little snippets we've already put on that on our socials. So whether you be like Twitter, TikTok, all those types of things, have a quick look. But he does talk in length about quite a few things like chasing records and even comparing himself to the Premier League legends. Robbie Fowler's mentioned, and even the bit where he's talking and smiling around, well, I'm a winger, so I've got defensive responsibilities. It's a bit tougher. Well worth a read, ladies and gents. So yeah, also a listen. If you've got your LFC TV Go Pass, I think they're called, you'll probably tell me what they are. But yeah, well worth that one. In other words as well, a Trent Alexander-Arnold interview. There's for a player that doesn't do many, they seem to be regular. People will read into that what they want. But that'll come out this weekend. So just a little snippet from that. And it's about Arne Slot. And I love this line. I really do. The manager's a perfectionist, and so as players, you have to be too. We all agree that perfection doesn't exist, but we want to be as close to perfection as possible. That's what we strive for. The more and more we're seeing about Arne Slot, and it's just rubbing off on the players so well. I think he is that absolute perfectionist. He will call out things that they do wrong as well. You've seen that bit for, when Trent's being told about just changing his body 8 or 9 degrees to give him a better chance. Almost obsessional, I'd say, from Arne Slot, but in the best possible way. Even in the press conference yesterday, as they say, he was talking about Curtis Jones, but he did still say he's got to do it every 3 days. But did anyone clock the line where he actually talked about, I started him this season as a number 6. That's where I saw him. He's very confident. Sometimes he can be overconfident, though, and that just caused him to hold on to the ball too long. So he's not one at all for shying away and saying, my player could do this better, or people will say, criticising them in public, and that's wrong to do. Nonsense. He's just talking about where they can get better. And listen to what Trent, listen to what Curtis Jones are saying. They are responding to it absolutely big time. There's no two ways about it at all. So, yeah, it's all working out, isn't it, for us? And as I say, there's a few Curtis Jones pieces that I mentioned there, but that one probably the best one I've read this morning, the one in the Daily Mail about the new complete dad, Curtis Jones. And also an interesting one. Sleeping in the spare room is one of the headlines. His work rate, we talked about the distance. But LeBron James, yeah, consulting him for advice. So well worth a read on that one. Be interesting to see, won't it, ladies and gents? The pundits are giving their predictions. What am I going for today? Here's what I genuinely see today. I could well be wrong on this, and feel free to comment or disagree. I think it's exactly the same lineup. I really do. I know a few will be thinking Núñez will be back in, Szoboszlai for freshness. I just think the success, and he kind of said it with a smile in the press conference, was a bit of a surprise to him. I do think he will put the exact same lineup in. I really do. Which is Keller, Trent, Tsimikas at left back, Virgil Nibu in the centre, and a midfield of Grav, Maka, and Curtis Jones. And then the forward line of Gakpo on the left, Diaz is almost like a false nine, you could call it, and Mo Salah on the right. I just think he will go exactly the same again. I could well be wrong, but that is my gut instinct. Now, Villa are a tough team. We can't read too much into the fact that, and I've seen some people saying, listen, they lost to Spurs 4-1. They lost in midweek. Like, it kind of capitulated a bit against Spurs, don't get me wrong. But the midweek against Bruges, they lost that because of that ridiculous handball. You may have seen it with Tyrone Mings. So I'm not really putting too much stock in that at all. What I am looking at is a couple of things. And in their various stats, I mean, they're pretty much on the same number of points as Arsenal. Read into that what you want. But they've scored 17, which is good. They've got goals. Duran's got 8 this season. Watkins has got 5. We know they bring a goal threat. They've conceded 15. They've mixed and matched their defence a little bit. I think, as some Villa fan channels have said, they have sort of flitted at times. Everyone's like, oh, it's a back 4. There has been on occasions where he's almost moved into a 3. There's been rotation in the centre-backs, and maybe it's injury, but Conte's been centre-back, right-back. You've got Diego Carlos, who he clearly doesn't fancy. Pau Torres, who's great at passing, but you do have question marks about his pace. And I understand why people may have looked and thought Darwin Núñez is the man to exploit that. I don't know. I really don't. But that's what I'm looking at with Villa. They bring a goal threat, but they give up chances. And they do concede goals. That's what the stats say at the same time. So, where does that steer me towards? That steers me towards, ladies and gents, in my prediction, 3-1. 3-1, Anfield to come alive again under the lights. And first goal scorer, Mo Salah. Can't really bet against the Egyptian king, can you? I'm happy if it's anyone else, but that is my prediction. 3-1, 8 p.m, under the lights at Anfield. Safe travels to those who are going like myself. Cannot wait for it. Anyone who's enjoying it at home, plenty of time for a few bevies, etc. And if you look at the games earlier, there's hoping there'll be a little boost just before kickoff, isn't it? Because Brighton, Manchester City at 5:30 today. So that's an interesting one. Arsenal don't play till tomorrow. So, yeah, we'll see what Brighton could do us a favour. That would be absolutely erotic, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. But it's all about us. 8 p.m, under the lights, Anfield tonight, Aston Villa. Let us hope we're celebrating 3 points. Let us hope we're all celebrating with Listen of Raw. That'll be later. Dave, Trev, and probably someone else talking about the game, breaking that down. But more than anything, let's hope we're going with a win, no injuries into the international break. And just in case you did miss it yesterday, all the indications are that Mo Salah will not be called up by Egypt, which I actually think is being underplayed a bit. Absolutely brilliant news. No two ways about it at all. Especially his age, we've seen the impact he can have a bit later on in the season. Imagine if we can keep Mo Salah rested all that time. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed they just sort of cancel international football completely. But that is a different thing altogether, ladies and gents. But there we are. Saturday the 9th of November, game day. I know you'll have stuff to do, whether you're taking the missus shopping, cutting the lawn, the jobs and bits, whatever you've got to do. But 5:30, you've got Brighton City. They'll warm up before the main event at 8 p.m. UK time. Saturday the 9th of November. That was your Daily Red. Enjoy your day wherever you are, ladies and gents.